Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another round of Modern Melee here with Ginkgo and
Marco, hello everyone.
Marco. What do we have here today?
Okay, we have finally Hammertime and we have Hardened Scales.
Two very fast decks, very explosive, capable of ruining the day for the opponent in turns 2 or 3.
And also, they are very fast decks, but we have to note that Hammertime is a very hated deck, while Scales is, in my opinion, it is a beloved deck. It is a hard deck, but everyone seems to like that deck.
Well, I have no idea how to pilot with or against neither of those decks, but what I do know is that both of those decks are extremely difficult to master and should not be picked up just like that. But we have here two pilots piloting respective decks who probably know what they're doing, and we see at the Hammertime deck one of the companions in the companion zone, Lurus, again showing their face.
Lurus, a very, very controversial card lately. Many people think it should have been banned in Modern with the recent bans. Well, I agree. That is. I agree with the sentiment. I think Lurus is somewhat strong in decks like Death Shadow Grixis or maybe Black Red Rock, but in Hammertime, it's not so influential, strong.
Could be said. Here we see the Hammertime piloting, putting down a Sigarda Sade together with a Memnite, and on the other hand, Hardened Scales, both very important cards for respective decks, both the cards that make the deck tick. And we see an Urza Saga again from the Hammertime match together with Steel Shaper's Gift.
Yeah, I imagine Hammer will come down on this Memnite, and it will be a very, very strong Memnite.
Very angry Memnite.
Yeah, with a big hammer. So this opening with the Hammer deck is it's not a turn 2 kill, but it is a very, very good opening against a deck such as Hardened Scales, which doesn't play many removals.
So for those who still do not know how this functions, can you walk us through how the Memnite just got to wield this colossal hammer?
Okay, the key card, of course, is Sigarda Sade. Sigarda Sade says that you can play your auras and equipments as though they had flash. And also, when they enter the battlefield, you may attach them to a creature you control. Also a courtesy of Sigarda Sade.
So the equip cost is colossal, one would say, on this card, 10 mana to equip, but with Sigarda Sade we get to cheat, and not just a little bit. Now we see one assembly worker from the other side doing the best to protect against such a hammer-wielding monstrosity, but there is a Stoneforge Mystic from the Hammer deck grabbing, I presume, another hammer. Oh no!
No, it's gonna be a Shadow Spear.
Yeah, Shadow Spear, and going in for the trample damage, and that's it from round 1. Blistering fast, turn 3 kill with a blocker and probably some interaction. What do you think? Does anything change in this matchup with sideboarding?
So this matchup is it's very hard usually. It's very hard to distinguish which deck is going to win. It's a difficult matchup for both sides, where both sides can pop off out of nowhere.
Exactly.
I believe that both sides will bring in artifact hate from sideboard. But there are also some things to ask. What do you put out?
Exactly, yes. And who do you think should be the aggressor, and who do you think should play the control route in this game. That is also a question one must ask themselves while sideboarding, because this will influence what role you play in the game and what cards you bring versus which cards you think you need to bring out.
So, if I'm not mistaken, the Hammertime deck is bringing in some Thoughtseize.
Always a good card to have.
Yeah, so I think this is on the play a great sideboard card for the Hammertime deck, as it can bring you some assurement when or what you want to do with your cards. Also, a great card and a new addition to the archetype is Blacksmith Skill that will protect your artifacts. And I imagine that Hardened Scales would also play that card if it was the white version, but it is in fact the green version, which will give this deck access to more artifact hate.
Exactly, cards like the free not counter spells, but artifact destructions, or something like myriad ways to kill artifacts in green can be probably found in those sideboards. But I have another question. Would you agree that both of those decks are actually a critical mass decks? They need a certain amount of cards, whether it is from Hammertime, Omnitopter's Memnites, and ways to equip the giant hammers, or from the Hardened Scales matchup, their namesake card Hardened Scales, together with some usually less impactful creatures. So how do you, let's say you are battling out against some other deck, and how do you fight against one or the other?
Okay, interesting question. I can say for sure about Scales. I think that Scales is a very difficult deck, perhaps the most difficult deck to master in the modern meta game. But I can say for sure that Hammertime has proved, with the addition of Modern Horizons 2, which is the saga, it has proved to be a very flexible deck that can go grindy, that can go explosive, and that can play many different versions of itself. For instance, this is a Lurus version, but it can also drop the Lurus in favor of Kaldra Complete and Metal Cyst, and maybe that's another list that is interesting. And I don't think neither of those lists have a critical mass that you need to
have.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we see the Hammertime player mulliganing once, I believe, down to 6, and this looks like a keepable hand if I see correctly. Those are some Stoneforge Mystics, several lands, and one card is going to the bottom. And we see the Ozolith from the Hardened Scales player, one extremely powerful addition from Ikoria that lets you store, so to say, your counters if a creature dies, and put them back on another creature at a later step. And Hangarback Walker is something that definitely you want to die, and you want to get those Topters, you want to get those artifacts, and of course you want to get those counters on the Ozolith back. And of course this deck has all of the artifact sacking synergies that you might expect. So things like the Hangarback Walker have extra oomph, so to say. And we see here, this is an Arcbound Ravager. And one of the ways that we said to sack artifacts.
A very important card for the Hardened Scales, one of the powerhouses, I would say, of the deck. Of course, Ozolith and Hardened Scales are important cards in the deck, but I've seen many games where Arcbound Ravager is the win condition.
Exactly. Just sack a lot of artifacts, put them all on your Walking Ballista, dome the opponent for 10 or 12, or just mow down their board and attack with your smaller creatures.
Exactly.
We see here Saga taking up to 2. The Hammertime player searching out actually a Shadow Spear.
Interesting.
This speaks to me that they already have one of the hammers in the hand, and a Pure Steel Paladin coming down, probably to draw some cards, not yet having the metal craft required for free equip, but this is not a problem in most of situations.
Also, a very important thing to note is that Urza Saga is on 2 counters, and the Hammertime player decided not to make the construct in favor of playing Pure Steel Paladin and drawing a card of Hammer.
So what this means is that if the Hardened Scales player does not have any removal from Pure Steel Paladin, the next turn the Saga pops, the player gets another artifact, whichever they choose, and can play another one from their hand. We know that they have Shadow Spear, they have Metalcraft, and they can just equip everything and have a giant tramply, lifelinky Peter that can go face or just be the abyss for the player.
Indeed. So again, although on the play, the Hammertime player seems to be in a very good situation. Also, it's important to note that the Scales player is on 2 green mana. That's something you want to be on.
Exactly. But they do have the Arcbound Ravager, they do have the Ozolith, they do. The only thing that they are missing is the namesake card to go just crazy with those counters. Because every iteration, when you move 1 counter, it becomes 2. When you move 2 counters, it becomes 3, and so forth. That they are very good at moving counters around. And we see actually the Hammertime player tutoring up another hammer. With the Shadow Spear in hand and with the floating mana, they will be able to equip 2 hammers and I do think smash face.
Okay, so they did add 1 colorless mana with the Saga before the Saga died. So they have 3 mana and they didn't play a land. And of course, there is no Metalcraft yet.
Not yet, but we will see. Our first of all thoughts is to see if the coast is clear.
And there we see the importance and the strength of the Thoughtseize.
And we see a Dismember going towards the Pure Steel Paladin before it has Metalcraft. But we still have the mana floating. We see a Gem Razor in hand, another Hangarback Colossus, and another Ozolith, which is in fact legendary.
And okay, so this is a decision probably goes to Gem Razor because I think that you want to protect your hammers at all costs at this point. And now, if I'm not mistaken,
they still haven't played the land.
Yes. And now with 2 white mana,
and
I do believe that. 3 mana. Okay, let's see.
Let's see what will happen. Yes, another Pure Steel Paladin. We saw this a while back, and another Shadow Spear that we also saw being tutored, and everything gets equipped to Stoneforge Mystic, and the player draws a card, and this is a 22-23 Trample Lifelink Stoneforge Mystic, and the Hardened Scales player also took 4 damage from the dismember, and this is game and match. Blistering fast, very explosive, could have gone both ways, but we have seen the consistency and the explosiveness of the Hammertime deck, having just the right tools, and as you said, being able to go both either blisteringly fast or just control the board the tiniest bit.
The match was so fast that we forgot to ask everyone to like, share, and subscribe. But I guess
that's it for this match.
yeah.
Stay tuned.